Welcome to this video where we today will look at the SQL Performance package and how it works. To use the SQL Performance package, you need a release of dbWatch Control Center later than the 29th of September 2022. This package is by today's date, the 4th of November, available for SQL Server, Oracle and PostgreSQL. But I suggest you check out our wiki page at wiki.dbwatch.com for complete details. Today I will look at SQL Server, but the interface is similar on other platforms. To use the SQL Performance package, you need to enable the license to use it. When I go to configure instance for my database instance, I can see that there is licenses to choose from here. SQL Performance package comes included in the demo type license, which I'm using here, or it can be as a separate license called SQL Performance package, or it can be bundled with other licenses as well. In my setup I have the demo type license, but I can also use the combination of production and SQL Performance package instead. The result will be the same. You can have multiple licenses enabled, and they can also be overlapping. Once you have the correct license, you will see the SQL Statistics package show up when you configure jobs. I can scroll down to the Performance section, and we see that SQL Statistics package is available and is already installed on this setup. But if you need to install it, you can hook this and click on install. This is not visible if you don't have the correct license. You need to have this job installed to have the different views available that we will use later on. If the job is not installed, you will not see the views in the management as well. If you go to the Performance section in Monitoring, you can see that the SQL Statistics job is installed and running and gathering new handles. So everything here looks okay, and then we can move into the management, and you can see the SQL Performance node in the management tree. We can click on it and it opens the dashboard for SQL Performance. Here we can quickly analyze the SQL queries that is running on this database instance. We are gathering and processing the SQL statistics, and this is separate from any database vendor license or other packages. On the top here we have a timeline with logical and physical reads and writes in the database instance and how they are performing in this time frame. And this allows us to see peaks in the database load. The middle view is SQL handle statistics during the same time period that we have on the top graph. We also have another tab for similar SQL queries that we will look at together later. We have also different metrics underneath that will display their metric in the same time frame as the logical physical reads and write. We have elapsed time, which is the combined time used to process the database queries. We have weights, that is the same weight statistics for this time period. We have the CPU load. We have transaction log usage. We have a database cache usage. We have session load with active and total number of sessions. We have checkpoints, and lazy writes, and also temporary database space usage. So when we go on the top graph, we can see we have a selection of different time frames. So it can be the last 8 hours, last 24 hours, last 2 days, last week, and all statistics. So it depends on how long back in time you want to investigate and how long you have set up this job to collect. And it also depends on the issue that you want to look at and how far you want to look back in time. So if we select the last 2 days, you will see you have more history, and the other graphs also update according to this time frame. So then we can use the mouse to select a shorter time frame, and you can click with the mouse and release, and this focuses the area. Click the reset to go back, to reset it to the last 2 days that you selected before. So when we want to dive further in here, we can see that we have 2 peaks here that we might want to investigate. And in this time frame, we have a lot of SQL handle statistics, and we record both SQL handle statistics, which could be SQL queries or procedures, and we also record something called similar SQL statistics. This is where we look at all the SQLs that are running, even the ones with low impact, and we look at the ones that are almost identical and compare them together and group them. So if we have SQLs in the database that are not using bind variables because your software provider has chosen this solution, then you get a lot of small queries that together can be a large impact on the system, but because of their individual statistics, they are hard to find by themselves, because they are by themselves not causing a great impact. And since we group them together here, they can then become visible again, so that you can actually see their impact on the system. So if we click here, you can see that we have quite a few SQL queries that are similar, and they have some impact in the system. So when we look at SQL handle statistics, we can see they are sorted by logical reads by default. You can sort it on different statistics. So you can sort it on number of executions in this time period, the combined elapsed time in this time period, the rows processed in this time period, the logical reads, the logical writes, and physical reads in this time period. You can also select more than the default top 30 rows if you're looking for a query that might be further down in the list. In this overview, you can see the first field, which is the number of records. This is the number of times that dbWatch has seen this query. And you have the database that this query is associated with. It can be empty as well on some systems because it's not always you can find the query. It can be that it's a cross-database query or a query that is not associated with a particular database. We also tag the queries that are part of the dbWatch solution so that they can be filtered out if you are looking for other queries than dbWatch. So you can set the press 1 here to see that you only get the dbWatch queries, and if you set 0 here, you can get queries that are not part of the dbWatch solution. So it's a way to filter out dbWatch queries from the presentation. The next field is the first execution time that this query has been run, and the last execution time for this query, and then the total number of executions in this time frame. this number can be slightly misleading if there is a procedure that has a lot of internal queries that loops through, and they are all added together in this value. Then you have the elapsed time, which is the total elapsed time for this query, the number of rows for this query, the logical reads, the logical writes, and the physical reads of this query in the time frame. And there's a field called MI that is a flag that indicates if you are missing an index on this query. So if we open up with more rows, we can find a query that has a missing index that has a flag like this. So we might be looking for a query that has a missing index. You can select it. And if you want to dive further in, you can go to Show Statistics, and this will open the Show Statistics view, where you have the logical and physical reads and writes on top on this time period. And you have the SQL handle statistic for this SQL handle, and you have the SQL code as well for this particular query. And you can see the SQL statistics for the query, and if this was a procedure, we can look at that as well. Let's look at the procedure, maybe this one. And here you can see that this is a procedure, and then you have the SQL statements, all the different SQL statements that are inside this procedure. It can be selects and inserts and updates and deletes, and you can see that this is the SQL statement in this procedure that is causing the most impact. So these are the insert, selects, updates, and deletes, and makes up the index in this procedure. And you can have a look at this in particular, and you can show SQL statement and statistics, and you can see the select query that is running, and you can also see what impact it is causing. You can also open the individual SQL queries in either XML format, or you can have the show SQL statement that only shows the SQL code. And you can open this in XML, show the missing index if there is available. And you can also open the query plan in SQL Server Management Studio. We can show that on the SQL query that was missing an index. Let me see if we can find this again. Yeah, it's there. So there's one. We can look at this. If we can see show missing indexes to show the statements. And you can also open this in SQL Server Management Studio. So let's do that. It takes a little while to open on this machine. So we have to wait a bit to have it loaded. So just waiting. Let's see. It takes some time. First time it starts up. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, there it comes. It took a lot longer. And then we have the plan. We can see the plan for the SQL query. And it allows us to have a nice view of the SQL plan. And you also can see that we are missing an index here on a non-clustered index here. So we can, So to sum it up, we use this dashboard to highlight a specific period that we want to look into. We can deep down in and see what queries is causing this impact. It's this query. And we can also look at similar SQL statements. See, we have one here that also is causing some impact, 2 million logical reads. And we can right click on it to show statistics, and we can look at this procedure that has multiple statements. If we just draw this, we can see that this is the one that is causing the impact, and we can open here and we can see it's a cursor fetch that is causing all the impact for this procedure. And we can also find the step in the SQL code. So then we can reset back, and this is an introduction to the SQL Performance package to allows you to have a great overview of how SQL statements are performing, their impact in the system, and what is happening in different time frames. And it also allows you to see the statistics and the other performance data in the same time frame. Thank you for today. This was an introduction to the SQL Performance package in dbWatch Control Center. Hope to see you again at the dbWatch YouTube channel. Thank you. dbWatch Control Center, redefining database operations. Please visit us at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube.